I want to talk a little bit about week one in the NBA. I want some just kind of like way too early overreactions of what you've kind of taken away from week one, because obviously I know you've been dialed in. This could be player or team related.
Anything open-ended? You're just going to leave me the whole NBA standings?
Yes,
God. Yes.
This is dangerous.
The Lakers have even more to figure out than I thought. That's one. You want to dive into that, or you just want to let me keep going?
I do want to dive into that. So the Lakers are so interesting because of the spotlight that's been placed on them. Like they can't have a game like they did in game one where Russ plays the way he does and then everyone goes crazy. I'm curious, when you say they have more to figure out, is it obviously you see the on bench interactions as well?
I forgot that happened when I was on the plane, and the Wi-Fi was good enough for me to see people tweeting about it, but not to see the video. It was incredibly frustrating. I was like, did they punch each other? What's going on? It was harmless. It didn't look that bad.
It honestly, as a player, it seemed like pretty standard, in-game confrontation. But what exactly are you alluding to when you say more to figure out?
Well, first we do have to acknowledge Ariza's hurt. Your old teammate Kendrick Nunn is hurt. THT is hurt. Ellington's hurt. So those are four. Think of them what you will, but there are four guys who are at the very least going to be candidates to be in the rotation at critical spots for the Lakers, the filling out those AD at center lineups. The spacing is just terrible. This is what we all wrote about when they got Russ. No one's going to guard him when he doesn't have the ball. You want the ball in LeBron's hands all the time because it's LeBron freaking James. You're not taking the ball out of his hands. If you're going to play a center alongside AD, it's going to be even worse. And so you have to find a way to make Russ useful when he doesn't have the ball. And we've been talking for a decade and a half about, imagine if Russ set screens, imagine if Russ cut, and he just never does it. And so it's just I said this on my podcast last week, they're not making the finals if Russell Westbrook is just standing around, not being guarded for 70% of his minutes on offense. They're just not going to make the finals. It's not going to happen. And so they need to figure that out, which is why you already have the overreaction of, should they bring Russ off the bench? I think the TNT guys were talking about that on opening night. It took one game for people to be like, Russ has to come off the bench. And I would pay, I don't even know how much I would pay to be in the meeting when Frank Vogel and Rob Pelinka in theory are like, hey, Russ, we got to have a conversation. MVP, triple-double king. We need you to be our sixth man. I would love to be in that room because I don't know if that meeting goes well.
These are the type of conversations you can be a part of if you took a front office position.
That's not a bad. I would be a part of the pre-conversation. I would be a part of the conversation about maybe having the conversation, but I wouldn't be in the room for the actual conversation. But look, they have LeBron and AD. They're going to figure out a lot of stuff and be a good team. But their road to being a great team is going to be a little trickier than even I thought.
So you think their issues start and stop with Russell Westbrook?
I wouldn't say that. Their depth is they need to get their wing depth in order. They need to figure out who among all those guys I listed, plus Monk, plus other guys that are starting, is a two-way player. Who can shoot and defend well enough to be on the floor when it matters. So it's not just Russ, but Russ is not a role player. That's not what he is. He's such a big part of their offense. He's going to be such a big part of their offense that the biggest variable of the season is whether they figure that piece out. They're going to be a good team no matter what. If they're going to win the championship, that's the question that's going to turn it to me.
Yeah, that's I like that take. I mean, it's a reasonable place to start. Obviously, a lot of the media attention has been on LA.